Okay, one last item here on our agenda for section 3.2 on the introduction to functions is this. Let's determine whether each of the graphs of is the graph of a function. How can we explain our answer right here? Well, we know that through our work here, if we substitute in values for x, we can find values of y and get the set of ordered pairs that go with each of these functions possibly, or whatever relation it is. And if we were to plot these out, of course, we're going to get a graph. How can we tell from the graph whether or not we've got a function? Well, here's the trick. We use something called a vertical line test. Write this out. Vertical line test. What is a vertical line test, you might ask? Well, the vertical line test says this. If you pass a vertical line through a graph, it only passes through, in at most, one place. So if we pass it through the graph, our graph will only passes through at most one point, right? 1 point. So let's take a look at this. Let's draw a vertical line. See what happens if we check this out. Okay, so let's look at our first graph right here. Our first graph, I'm going to make this a nice line so it will stand out here. Okay, good. If we were to take a vertical line and pass it through this graph, let's just pick a random point right here and just see what happens. If I were to pass this vertical line, it passes through in two places. If I look at this graph over here on the right and I pass it through another place, I see it only passes through at one point. Well, if that is the case, then we say in this case, it does not pass the vertical line test. And since it does not pass the vertical line test, it passed through the graph in two places, not at most one, we're going to say that it is not a function. Now let's take a look at our other graph right here. In this case, it only looks like everywhere that you put this vertical line through the graph, you're only going to get 1 point of, and we kind of would have to close in at these points right here, but let's assume that the arcs are such that if they're thin enough, they can just be shown right next to each other without really passing through each other twice. So in this case, we're going to assume that in this graph, yes, it does pass the vertical line test. And therefore, we're going to say that it is a function. We say y is a function of x right here. Good luck on your assignments. See you in class.